Hi everyone, this is Bian Li, founder of the Hungry Lab, and I'm excited to have Ana Krish today here with me. And Ana has been one of the early members of the Hungry Lab, and we've been so blessed to be able to see her in her entrepreneurial journey and to see her growth. And so today we're going to talk about one of Ana's main focus areas, which is self-care, and especially self-care for changemakers, for millennials, for anybody who is trying to make a change in the world. And it goes back to the question of who helps the helpers. And I think, Ana, with you, it's also very parallel to your own personal growth story as an entrepreneur and a founder. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you got started and what was the impetus for your company, Sanyara?
Yeah, thank you, Bea. So I got started because I wanted to make a positive difference in this world, which was a very daunting task, but I ran right into it. And you guys might relate, when you start a business, you might go in heads first, you might just start trying a whole bunch of different things. You start meeting people, you start seeing the problems in the world as you're looking for a solution to help. And through that process, I felt like I was doing what was in my nature and what I needed to do, but I also started experiencing burnout, I started experiencing stress, and I needed to find a way to help myself so that I could continue and nurture myself along this journey, because I did want to reach that goal where my business was alive, it was vibrant, and that it was helping more people. I just needed to make sure not to forget about myself along the way.
Right, exactly. And can you tell us a little bit more about what you learned as some of the best tips for how do you prioritize the self when you're so busy running around doing so many things? And I think I get messages every day from, especially millennials who have a lot of anxiety about what's going on in the world, about their role and how they can contribute to making the world a better place, but also trying to, manage a steady job and all of the other daily stresses of life, right?
Yep, I was definitely an entrepreneur, also working a full-time job. I still work a full-time job, and you start, especially if you're living with your vision, you're looking into the future, you're absolutely not present. That is something very hard to do, is to tap in, to ground, to actually even keep asking yourself your why questions, because there's no space for that sometimes. So the tips that I had to apply to myself, and then I also am working on sharing with others, are basic mindfulness tips, basic self-care tips, which include making time for yourself, making sure that you prioritize yourself as much as you prioritize others. And in the most micro example is, if you make a meeting and you're never late to meetings, make a meeting with yourself, because you know you'll show up with it. Put it on your Google Calendar. Sometimes you actually need to schedule out self-care, which is unsexy, but you're just as important as any of your others, shareholders, stakeholders.
Right, like you and I, we always talk about, you can't pour from an empty cup.
That's absolutely true. And if you ever feel the guilt of maybe you don't need to take that nap, maybe you don't need to go choose a healthy food item as opposed to just getting fast food, think of yourself that you're not going to be able to help people if you're not fueled by the right food, if you're not getting enough sleep, or if you're just going to go kaputs one day.
So burnout is real. Can you tell us a little bit more about what are some of the signs of burnout?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you actually reach burnout, it might come on like this, but generally there's all these little symptoms along the way. They include insomnia, having trouble sleeping. They include a loss of appetite, or on the contrary, binge eating. When you find yourself binge eating, stress eating. Unfortunately, it also can include checking out. So if you're in a moment where you're just ready to throw everything in the trash can, you're just feeling frustrated and stuck, that may not actually be the truth of where you're at. You may be experiencing burnout. Extreme emotions, anger is common. Anger is kind of a default emotion for when your body's overwhelmed and you just need to react. So you might be finding yourself picking arguments, just frustrated with yourself, angry with yourself.
Your body's on a more constant level of stress, so you're reacting versus responding, and
Absolutely.
It's in fight or flight mode.
That's absolutely correct. When you find yourself reacting to things that are uncharacteristic to you, that is definitely a sign of burnout. Physical symptoms, you could be having extreme fatigue. You could find yourself not having the energy to wake up in the morning, finding yourself not being able to complete a full day, and that's going to be very frustrating to you, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're a change maker, when at one point you had the energy, the ability. Just don't believe that it's gone. It's definitely your energy, your ability, your vision is still inside you. You've just reached this point of burnout where you need to stop and take care of yourself.
Right, and it's okay to say, hey, I need to pause. I need to take some time for myself regroup
Yes.
and then redirect and come back fresher, better, clearer.
I remember like I was like reaching the point of burnout between my day job and my business, and someone told me, they're like, why don't you just put it aside for a couple weeks and just take a break? I felt like I was gonna cry when I heard that, because I was like, you can't do that. You can't just stop a moving locomotive.
Yeah.
And I didn't. Guess what? Nothing broke. Everything was fine. I was able to come back and be there for the people that are helping me with my business and my clients. Everything was fine. I was stuck in this like logical fallacy.
Right. And a lot of times it's the stories that play in our own heads that may not be what the pressure that we put on ourselves may not necessarily be what others are putting on us.
And actually that brings me to a great point. One of the other symptoms, you may find yourself isolating. So unfortunately, like if you are reaching burnout, you might not have the people in your life who can be like, hey, maybe take a break for a second, calm down, take care of yourself. Because you might have already kind of like kicked them out of your life temporarily. So it is a humbling experience when you choose to put yourself first, because you sometimes have to invite those people back in, and that can be tough too.
Right, and it's sort of unmasking your ego and sort of going down more into the self and what really grounds you, and aligning mind, body, and soul. And a lot of times we repress a lot of that, and we don't listen to what our body is saying. We don't listen to what our heart is saying. So what are you finding in terms of some effective daily, easy self-care tips that anybody can put into practice? Because I know one of the biggest things that we hear entrepreneurs say all the time is, I don't have time for this. So I know I should do this, but I don't have time. So what are some really easy things that everybody can do with no excuse? Yeah.
First of all, when you talk about self-care, it's not like you have to do more necessarily. Like, yes, there are like self-care, like the top 10 self-care things checklist, but then you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, that's more that I have to do. So it's okay, calm down. What we can do is start by doing less, so we can take things out of your day that may not, like if you're working with a coach or working with B, you might be able to like find a way to utilize your time better, where you just have more time for yourself and you're doing less in a day. You're doing less, maybe less calls, less driving, and just giving yourself that space at the bare minimum. And then once you can make that space for yourself in your schedule and you can start to prioritize yourself, then we can choose healthier activities to put in. That could include journaling in the morning. Creating routine is extremely important, even if it's not adding new like habits like journaling or meditating. It's like start by creating a routine or something regular that you can look forward to, because that's going to give you that sense of control.
And find what works for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's something that I like to work with people on individually, is to make sure that we're getting them the right self-care tips and tricks for them that fit their lifestyle. Because if you're not like a meditator right away and someone tells you to meditate for 20 minutes, you might be like, whoa, but guess what? There's like things you can do for like either meditate for 2 minutes, think about releasing your negative emotions in the shower, starting aromatherapy, things that can bring you into your body and into the present moment, so that you're not just like overwhelmed by the future.
Right. And if you like music, maybe sing. Or if you like to sing, sing. If you like to dance, dance. Do what works for you in the beginning.
Walking your dog, finding pets. Like I do have a list, but I'm not gonna overwhelm you guys with the list, but yeah.
Yeah, so we'll include that later. This is gonna be an ongoing series with tips and, coaching and courses and all of that stuff that we're gonna be able to roll out with this. Yeah. And so can you tell us a little bit more about the term compassion fatigue? Because that we see aligned with burnout a lot, especially with changemakers and social entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. At its most extreme form, compassion fatigue can be secondary post-traumatic stress disorder, which means that if you're a social good entrepreneur and you're helping people who are in extreme situations, like you go to impoverished places, you see how people are struggling, you, even though you don't live there, can absorb that pain and suffering. And on the other end, even in our like day-to-day lives, if you're watching the news, if you're on social media and you're seeing a lot of the problems, you're worried about climate change, that worry, that existential dread can fall upon your shoulders, and that is compassion fatigue. You want to help, you are involved in helping, and you're absorbing their pain.
Right.
And that definitely leads to burnout. People who are working with social workers and stuff need to actively invest in themselves and practice self-care. Self-care is one of the first recommended things to people who are experiencing compassion fatigue and burnout.
Okay, that's really helpful. And can you tell us a little bit more about what you're embarking on now with Sunyata? Since the beginning, we've seen it sort of grow from the seed, and we've seen your evolution. And now we're so excited to see you being out there, starting to teach, doing workshops. And so what are some of the things we can look forward to with Sunyata? What is the main mission that you're on? What are you trying to achieve with Sunyata, and how can people get involved?
Awesome, thank you, V. Yes, I'm very excited to share this. My company, Sunyata, we're a products and process company. We believe in giving you guys natural products to support your journey of self-care, and then we believe in giving you the process and the coaching in the community to be able to like practice it every day, because we know that you can empower yourself while empowering others. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It's not about extremes here. We're trying to find that healthy balance in the present to keep your cup full so that you can contribute to your community and that you can actually execute upon your vision. So we're doing this by providing essential oils that are tailored to like help you nurture and ground in the moment, kind of like the acute approach. Like if you're stressed, what oils can you use to actually ground and tap into your why, your core, your cozy, warm, and fuzzy place.
Yeah, and also with the tools that will show you how to use it,
yes,
how to apply it in your own daily life.
And how to put it into like the ritual and routine that I talked about that was so important. And then we are building our coaching and community, which means that we'll help you navigate this for the long term to build something sustainable so that you don't always have to turn to the quick fixes, that you'll feel like you have the toolkit in order to just self-empower, manage it on a day-to-day basis, and then execute on your vision.
Yeah, ultimately it's about empowering each individual to be able to sort of guide themselves through whatever difficulties they're going through.
And I like that guide because we some of the things we think about when we're like working on creating self-care, like rituals with people, is we think of it like a roadmap.
Yeah.
So we can grow with you. We can start about like talking about your sleep, and then all of a sudden, like as we work with you, we'll have a nice roadmap for you so that you can like have a self-care ritual that accompanies you throughout your whole like business plan.
Right, and that's so critical because you can't pour from an empty cup, and we need everybody to be able to operate, be physically healthy, be emotionally balanced, be mentally healthy, and spiritually healthy as well. And I think once we align all of those, then we'll be able to achieve much more, especially those who are driven by purpose and by mission, to aligning their inner purpose with the outer mission. So that's so exciting. And where can people find information?
At www.sunyata.io. And then, of course, I think we can post the links or something, and you guys are welcome to email me directly and shoot me any questions.
Great, thank you so much. And can we get some final takeaways of your whole process? What have you learned the most, or what have you think that you've grown most as?
Well, working with B, it's all good things. It's a process of self-awareness because it was by working in the incubator with B that I was able to I had to be faced with those tough questions of what do you want, what are you trying to do, and how are you going to do it? And that's when I started to tap into these mindfulness tips and tricks and self-care habits, is because I wanted to answer these questions for you because they were so critical to the success of my business.
Right.
So,
it's
thank you, B.
Oh, thank you. I'm just so honored to be able to, be a part of your journey, because I think, everybody has that gift. And I think once you tap into yourself and align yourself, then you're going to be able to actually unleash it to the best of your ability. So we're so excited.
Thank you.
And we can't wait to see more of what Sunyata has in store. Go to sunyata.io. And in the meantime, we'll post links on the Hungry Lab's website, thehungrylab.com as well.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys. Can't wait to see you next episode, and stay hungry. Take care of yourself.
Bye.
Bye.